Go+Be is a phrase that has just kind of grown up around here and become popular. You've probably heard us say it at the end of a service, go be the church where you live, work, and play. I think that the church is at its most powerful when it's scattered. It's when you go into your office cubicle, your classroom, your kitchen, your neighborhood. That's when the church is most at work, because that's when we're like a net of people out in the world. And so I'm going to ask you over this year if you would join me in going out of here, going and being the church, blessing people where we live, work, and play. Hey 242, if you've been with us at any time at all, you know that our all-church vision for the year has been Go+Be. It's been our benediction after every service at 242 for years now, to go be the church where you live, work, and play. And the idea is that the church is not a building or some set of programs. The church is you. And everywhere you and I go, there are opportunities to be the church for people. And we kicked this off in the fall by focusing on where we live. And we asked ourselves, in particular in our small groups every week, who have we blessed this week? And blessed, that was a simple tool we gave you. It was just an acronym for being the blessing to this world God designed you to be. And it stood for, begin with prayer, listen to people, eat, because we know when we eat with people, just something special happens there. The first S is to serve people whenever we can. And then the last S, to share your story or share an invitation to come to church. So in the fall, we said, bless people where you live. And then this past January, we challenged you to think through how to bless people where you work. And we had a conference and we formed some groups around that. And now as we head into summer, well, it's time to play. And this is a fun one. Hey, you already have hobbies and fun ways you fill the time in the summer weather. Think about that right now. Hey, what are you going to be doing this summer for fun? And then as you're thinking about that, will you think about this verse? Because in 1 Corinthians 10:31, it says, so whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God. And we believe that no matter whether it's fishing or hosting play dates for preschoolers in a park, or movie nights in the front yard with your neighbors, golf with friends, kayaking down a river, riding bikes, motorcycles, whatever, that you can take whatever you do and you can do it all for the glory of God. Okay, so here's the ask. Would you be willing to take what you're into this summer and invite a few people to join you? Would you be willing to organize an Intuit meetup or an Intuit group this summer? This is not a big time commitment. I'm thinking one Intuit meetup or an event, or if you want a couple of times, get together, play golf or tennis or whatever. The frequency is up to you, and it's just for the summer. In fact, this should be fun. The idea is to do what you would already do. Just invite some other people to join you and then bless them. It's as easy as that. If you'll say yes to hosting an Intuit event or group, we'll publish a catalog of them on Go+Be Play Weekend. And we'll get the word out to everybody. And think about how you came to church. For most of us, a friend or somebody invited us, and if we'll just go be the church this summer where we play, while we play, I believe God is going to use it. In fact, I think He's going to use you to bless this city. Well, man, I don't know who you're getting to do your voiceover work for your videos, but I could listen to that velvety baritone voice all day long, okay? That guy is amazing. But anyway, hey, my name's Dave, and it is great to be with you. I'm one of the pastors here, and if you're new, this Go+Be vision is really, it's not a new concept for us. The truth is, really over the last few years, it's just grown up organically. At some point, somebody said, hey, go be the church where you live, work, and play. And then that just kind of caught on, and it became sort of like a benediction at the end of each service. So whatever campus you would go to, you go to Saginaw, you go to Ann Arbor, you go to Lansing campus, whatever, at the end of every service, The campus pastor or the host will say, now go be the church where you live, work, and play. We made a t-shirt out of it and gave that out to everybody. So now I'll see those t-shirts going out everywhere in the cities. And so this past fall, we said, well, let's double down on this thing because it's really just caught on with people. Let's make this the vision for our church this year. So back in September, we said we were going to launch the Go+Be vision with Go+Be the church where you live. And we started to define, well, what does it mean to be the church? We said, well, we're going to say that it means to bless people. And to further define that, we even made an acrostic about it. We said the be in bless was to begin with prayer. That we wanted to be prayerful people, that as we're out in the city and impacting lives and being with the people of our city, our neighbors, we want to be praying, God, would you change our heart, that we would love what you love, that we would want to stand up for truth and justice the way that you would, that we would protect the poor like you would protect the poor, that God, we would be the kind of people that you'd want us to be, and would you guide and direct our efforts? God, we want to be praying for the people in our neighborhoods, praying for the people at work, praying for the people in our cities, and so we begin with prayer. Then the L in bless is this concept, this idea of listening. Listening. We don't want to imagine we know what's best for people. We want to listen to where people are. How can I help people take a next step with God if I don't even know where they are currently with God? So I want to hear their story. In fact, when we opened up this building, when we bought the building, the first thing we did was we put a sign out front that said, coming soon, you decide. And we had people fax in ideas of it. Fax in, was it 1982? We had people text in ideas about what they wanted their community center to be. And we did the same thing in Ann Arbor. And guys, we got all kinds of people saying, hey, well, okay, great. Well, if you're going to build this building, we'd like there to be soccer in there. We'd like there to be basketball. There ought to be programs for students. There ought to be all kinds of stuff. I got all these emails, passionate emails. I got a passionate email that said, we need roller derby. That roller derby would change this community. And I thought, yeah, it probably would change this community. But anyway, so we didn't get the roller derby in, but a lot of what you see in this place is because we listened to the community. So we want the L in bless to be to listen. And then the E in bless is this idea of eating together. It's one of my favorites. It is this idea that there's just something that happens when you've got a coworker and you guys have been kind of work friends, but then at some point somebody says, hey, let's go out to eat together. Or we ought to have your family over for dinner. There's something that happens in that. It takes the relationship to the next level. And so as we're with this community, we don't just want to lob like gospel bombs at them. We want to have relationship with them. And so we eat together. We have real relationship together. We eat together. The first S in bless is to serve. We want to be a people that are out serving this community. You can have theological debates with people all you want. And that's a good thing, but you just can't argue with people that are out there serving. Out there handing you donuts on Christmas Eve. Out there helping you build your deck. Out there trying to love on these schools. Trying to help the community. That's what we want to be. We want to be a community or a church that is serving our community. Blessing them. And then finally, when you have a relationship with somebody, when you've listened, when you've prayed, when you've served them, that final S in bless is, at that point, we want to share an invitation to church. We want to share with people, hey, Jesus is changing my life. Come to church and meet Jesus. And so that's what bless is all about. And we said last fall that we were going to start off with go be the church where you live. Go bless the community where you live. And what we did in particular was we said all of our small groups, by the way, if you're not in a small group, you're missing out. This is great. Small group is better. Those of you who are in small groups, could you clap just to let everybody else know how awesome small groups are, okay? So get in a small group. But in our small groups, we said we want every small group to take a bless update every week. So go around, all it is 5-7 minutes, and say, who are you blessing? Who are you blessing? Who are you eating with this week? Who are you praying for this week? Who are you reaching out to and serving this week? And we do this bless update. And then we say, as a small group, who are the people that we're out serving and blessing? And I just want to say to all of you small group folks that have been doing the Bless Update, thank you for doing that. Thank you for going out. I mean, this euchre tournament, love that. We heard about Saginaw small group that got together and built a playroom for the local shelter for moms and their kids. I mean, that kind of stuff is awesome. I want to thank you for small groups that are just having barbecues and inviting people that don't already in your group to just come eat with you and hang out with you. So thank you for that, and please keep that up. My vision for the Bless Update is that just like you would never think of having a small group without snacks, right? Would you ever, come on, if you walked into a small group and there was no pretzels and dip, wouldn't you just be like, I ain't got time for this, all right? You'd be out, right? So just like you wouldn't think of having a small group without snacks, you wouldn't think of having a small group without a Bless Update, because we want to be a people that are on mission to bless this community. Well, back in January, we said, okay, now we're going to revisit this Go+Be vision and say we want to go be the church, not just where we live, but where we work. We had a little conference about it. We had some groups that got together and started thinking through how to do that. We offered some resources to folks, and I have heard some great things. I've heard people that are, eating with people that they didn't normally eat with, people that are establishing relationships, serving, blessing people at their work. And one of the things that's come out of this, you guys, has been so cool, is people starting to go, you know what? I used to have a hard time getting up for work every day. I'd go in there thinking, what's the purpose? It's like you do it for a paycheck for a while, and that's exciting for a while, but, after a while, it's like, man, what? I'm here 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week, and it's just, But then once I started seeing my work as a mission field, that God has me here for a purpose, man, I'm like coming alive at work, and I love that. I love that people are starting to go, you know what? I'm not just an engineer who happens to be a Christian. I'm a Christian who happens to be an engineer. Do you see that difference? That's a complete, that light switch flips on all kinds of things. When you start saying, you know what? I'm not just a business person who happens to own a Bible and go to church, but I am a passionate, Christ-following missionary on mission in my workplace for Jesus to love people, serve people, pray for people. Like, I want to be a blessing to the people that I'm around. Man, that makes all the difference in your work. Well, here's the other reason that I want you to be, blessing people where you work, because if you don't, this could happen. It's a news story from last week. 54-year-old Brian Morris from the small town of Clarendon Hills in DuPage County, Illinois, bought over 20,000 tons of manure and asked for it to be dumped on his former boss's property. Dozens of trucks filled with manure showed up in the front of the house around 6 this morning, began dumping their smelly cargo over the property's lawn. George Fitzgerald, Mr. Morris's former employee, was awakened by the sound of the vehicles on his... Just imagine this happening. I love it. He wakes up... I don't love it. You should not do things like this, okay? But here's the thing. He wakes up, he said, he called the police. Unfortunately, it took the police more than 15 minutes to arrive. More than 10,000 tons of manure had already been dumped in the meantime. Brian Morris was standing right across the street and laughing when the police arrived. He rapidly came over to confess his responsibility and explain his motivations. Lieutenant Frank Mayers, a spokesperson of the Clarendon Hills Police Department, met the press a few hours later to explain, quote, "The accused told us that he'd worked for the victim for 17 years and was treated like manure. He says he had to endure his mistreatment because he needed the money. But now that he'd won $125 million in the lottery, it was time for revenge." Oh my gosh, I love it! So Brian Morris has attracted a lot of media attention 2 weeks ago after winning $125 million in the Powerball multi-state lottery. When asked by organizers what he would do with the money, he simply answered, "Just read the news and you'll see." And this is his mugshot as he's getting arrested. Oh my goodness. So what I'm telling you is you need to be Jesus at work or you might get manure on your property, okay? That is what I'm telling you. Oh, I love that. All right, so we've talked about being Jesus, blessing people where you live. We've talked about blessing people, go be the church where you work. Now we're going to talk about where you play because, guys, it's summertime in Michigan, amen? We are ready. It is summertime, and so we've got 3 weeks of summer here to get something done. And we're going to be going out and playing golf this summer. We're going to be kayaking this summer. We're going to be doing barbecues. We're going to be having play groups on the beach with other families. We're going to be camping. We're going to be doing all this stuff. And my vision for this is, what if while we're already doing all the things that we're super excited about doing, what if we were blessing the people that were around us at that time? All right, so that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit. And so I went to Scripture, and I tried to find, okay, where's Jesus out playing golf? Where's Jesus out playing sand volleyball with the disciples on the Sea of Galilee beach, okay? You don't find it. And it occurs to me, well, of course, because these are people that are being threatened. They live under the threat of having things confiscated from them, of being beaten by the Romans, of being locked up by the Romans, of being killed by the Romans. So when you live under that kind of oppression, your life is more about survival than it is about hobbies, right? So there really is no story, I mean, other than maybe fishing, but these guys were fishing for survival. They were not fishing for fun. And so other than that, like, I just, what story can we use? So I found a story that had a lot to do with neighbors. It's in Luke 10, and you've heard this story before, so let me tell it to you in maybe a fresher way rather than just read it from the Bible. The story goes like this. A man came to Jesus, and he said, well, who is my neighbor? And the reason he asked that question is twofold. One is because Jesus had just been teaching, hey, love your neighbor. Love your neighbor. That's a pretty famous teaching of Jesus. Well, this guy decides, well, how can I do the bare minimum of that? He comes and he's like, well, who is my neighbor, Jesus? In other words, I don't want to go one house past what I have to go. I just want to do the bare minimum of loving my neighbor. So who is my neighbor? And Jesus, sensing the smallness of this guy's heart, decides to tell a parable, which for Jesus is a story that he makes up to teach a point. And he starts telling this story. Okay, so who's your neighbor? That's what you need. Okay, Jesus said, there was a man, presumably a Jewish man, that's walking down from Jericho to Jerusalem to Jericho. It's about a 17-mile journey. The people that were listening to Jesus teach, they would have known that. They would have known this sort of well-worn path that was, the elevation is like, they go 1,500, 15,000, 1,500, a lot of feet in a 17-mile road. So it's a kind of, rough terrain, and it was a journey that was known because of the terrain where thieves would often hide in the crags of the rocks to go out and steal stuff. And so Jesus makes this story with guys going down, and, he stops to look at his sundial wristwatch, and he picks up his wineskin full of water. Anyway, never mind, it's a joke. But anyway, it's not funny, but something with Baptist. But anyway, so he takes that, and he's drinking this thing, and the thieves come out and knock him over the head. So the guy basically gets beaten half to death. He gets left on the side of the road, and they steal everything from him. They steal his clothes even, Jesus said. Then Jesus said a religious person came along. And if you're a Jewish person, like if Jesus was here telling the story, he would say, well, a Christian came along, to which you guys would be like, oh, good, Christians here. They're obviously going to do the right thing. But Jesus said he saw the man and passed by on the other side. Then Jesus said another person came along, a religious leader. Now for us, if Jesus was telling the story, he might say a pastor, where we might lean in and say, oh good, a pastor's going to do the right thing. But Jesus said that he saw the man and he passed by on the other side. Apparently he had to go work on his sermon about how important it is to love your neighbor. For whatever reason, he passes by on the other side. And then Jesus said, a Samaritan comes along. Now, if Jesus were here teaching, he might say a drug dealer came along. Because for us, I mean, nobody likes drug dealers. They're cheating people, they're killing our kids, they're ruining our neighborhoods, and nobody likes a drug dealer. And for Jesus, when he said Samaritan, I mean, those Jews would have been so disgusted because they didn't like Samaritans at all. There were racial tension between the two. There were religious differences between the two. They hated each other. So Jesus said a Samaritan came along, and then Jesus makes him the hero of the story. He said the Samaritan actually stops, bandages the guy up, puts him on his horse, takes him down to town, gets him lodging for the night, and pays for it all and says, oh, by the way, and I got to go, but when I come back, any other expenses as he's incurred, just put him on my tab and I'll take care of it. And then Jesus, as he concludes the story, looks back in the guy and he says, that asks the question, who is my neighbor? And Jesus asks him a question, which one of the three was a neighbor to the man? And Jesus' point was obvious. It's not about who you racially like. It's not about who believes what you believe religiously. It's not how you define who your neighbor is. In fact, it's more about, it is this. It is when you see a need with someone, you can just go ahead and consider that person your neighbor. Like, it's wherever you see the opportunity to love somebody, to bless somebody, then Jesus would say, well, that's your neighbor. It's not about drawing a circle around your house and saying, okay, I'll help these people, but not those people. It's not about at work saying, you know what, we're going to do this line of cubicles, but I'm not helping people on that side of the room. Jesus said, when you see somebody that you have the opportunity to bless, even like while you're going, while you're doing your thing, while you're out there kayaking, while you're out there cycling, while you're out there running, while you're out there doing whatever, boating. I mean, when you're doing your thing and you got life going on and you see somebody that you have the opportunity to help, Jesus said, guess what? That's your neighbor. And you need to love him. And so I wanted to take this story and just pull out a couple things from it and let that inform us just in the next few minutes of what it means for us to go be the church where we play this summer. First thing I tell you is this, go be sensitive. See the need. The Samaritan saw the need. And when you're out hiking, when you're out golfing, when you're out doing that thing, you need to be able to see the needs. You ever get distracted? Do you ever just get distracted and I'm amazed at how distracted I can be. I like to think it's because I'm really good at focusing on one thing. But the truth is, sometimes I focus so much on one thing, I miss everything around me. I was watching TV, reading my Bible one night, and I had my daughter with me. She was just a baby, and I'm just like doing this kind of a thing, and I'm not reading my Bible. I'm watching TV, but I'm like standing up doing this thing. It's almost like I was back at a 7th grade dance. But anyway, I've got her, and I'm just trying to do this thing, and I'm patting her and whatever, and she's just fussing and fussing and fussing. Finally, my wife comes in the room, and she goes, Dave, what are you doing? The reason she was fussing, I looked down. Folks, I don't mean to be gross, but I've never seen this much snot come out of a human person. And my daughter is just like basically, she can't talk. She's like in her way saying, Father, could you please take care of this for me? And I didn't even see it. And how many times do you go through life and like you're out fishing with somebody and you're going, how are things going? And the guy next to you goes, it's okay. And you go, great, let's do some trout fishing. And you completely miss the signs, the body language, the words, the whatever, because you're so focused on this thing. Do you ever get out there playing? Do you ever get out there playing this summer and you start to think it's me time? Do you know what I mean? Me time? It's like, well, listen, man, once I hit the beach, this is me time. And I don't want to deny you me time. You need that. You need Sabbath. You follow a God who says, hey, you ought to take every 7th day and rest. How great a boss is God. You need me time. You need God. You need rest. You need to play. You need to have community and have fun. And I'm not saying anything against all that. What I'm saying is as you're doing that, if the Lord puts somebody in your way that needs something from you, you ought to at least have one eye and one ear available to see and hear the need. Are you with me on that? Wouldn't you love to be that kind of person? We ought to see the need. Here's number 2. Go be sympathetic. Because the truth is, the first 2 people, the religious person and the pastor, we'll say, they saw the man. They just didn't care. If you go read back in Luke 10, Jesus literally said that the Samaritan took pity on the man. In other words, once he saw the need, something stirred in his heart. He cared. He cared about what happened. Romans 12:15 says this, when others are happy, be happy with them. Share in their emotion. Then he said, when they're sad, share their sorrows. Share in someone else's sorrow. Feel the emotion with them. We got to care about all these people that we're going to be interacting with when you go to the festival, when you go to the parade, when you're out at the barbecue. We got to care where people are at. I was 3 hours into the hills of Appalachia because that's where my parents were from. And we were standing at the head of my grandmother's casket. And at her funeral, here come all my extended cousins and cousins and cousins and cousins. And they're all going by and paying their respects, and people from the community that knew my grandmother. And then I was so surprised to see the pastor from our home church in Cincinnati. What was he? He'd never even met my grandmother, and yet there were tears in his eyes as he was walking past us and saying, I'm sorry about your loss, sorry about your loss. Anything we can do, guys, we love you, we want to. Do you know why he was crying even though he'd never met my grandmother? Do you know why he drove 3 hours to be with us? Because he cared about us. And because we were hurting, he was sharing that sorrow with us. That is the heart of God. God cares about what you care about. If it bothers you, it bothers him. If it makes you sad, it's making him sad. As you rejoice, God is rejoicing with you. Guys, we ought to be and have that heart as well. I could not outline a single sermon that man preached, and I was in his church for years and years and years. And though it shaped me, inspired me, I couldn't remember to outline any of those messages, but I will never forget the tears in his eyes and the sacrifice that he made to show our family that he cared. Be sympathetic. Go be, and I think that probably goes to the L in listen, by the way, in bless, is that we need to be listening to people. Okay. All right, and then number 3, go be supportive. Go be play means to go be supportive. The Samaritan didn't just say, wow, I care about you. I see your need. I'll be praying for you. Like he actually bent down, like he picked the guy up. He got into the mess with this guy, put him on the horse. He took him down, like he was supportive. He did something. And again, I don't want to take anything away from your play this summer. I mean, if it is about running, then keep it about running. You don't have to have a Bible study. You don't have to even pray. You don't if you do, great, but you don't have to do any of those things. You don't have to run like to the soup kitchen to help people. That's not what I'm saying. Like go run, like make it about running, but in your mind, be ready when God shows you a need and be listening for that need. And when you see the need, then goodness gracious, stop running and meet the need. Or make it about, there's a way. You guys are creative people. I love that euchre tournament. It's like, well, we're going to play euchre. Might as well raise some money for some people in Haiti. Do you love that? You say, well, we're going to run a 5K. Might as well drive 10 minutes longer to get to the race that's actually collecting food for the hungry. There are ways, if we'll just think about it, that we can be supportive and actually take action to meet needs through our playing, if we'll think about it. And if none of that works out, well, then can I just tell you, one of the greatest ways that you can be a blessing and supportive to people around you are with your words. The Bible says this in Proverbs, it says, kind words bring life, cruel words crush the spirit. Kind words bring life, cruel words crush the spirit. And most of us have been in environments, especially when we're out playing, play basketball, you play tennis, you play golf or whatever, when you're around people that are just cruel to each other. It's like a hobby for them. It's like, I'm just gonna get at you. I'm gonna get in your head. I'm gonna tell you how about whatever. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to support people even as we play? Hey man, great shot. That's awesome. I can see you're getting better. Every week it seems like you're getting better. And next thing you know, we're giving life rather than crushing the spirit. Okay, here's the next one. Go+Be, I think, is go be ready or go be now. Like, go bless people now. Don't procrastinate. I love that the Samaritan didn't say, okay, wait right here. I'm going to go get some help. Okay, wait right here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to start a little prayer group. We're going to raise some money. We'll figure this out, and then eventually we're going to attack this problem. And because we care about this, it's like, you know what? Just jump in and make a difference. Just jump in and make a difference, and don't procrastinate. You see the need, meet the need. When? Right then. You see a need. You know, you can pray on a golf cart. It is possible. You can shoot a text to somebody. You know, as you're walking off the tennis court. Hey, man, great game, whatever. You can do it now. Procrastination is my sin. It causes me such sorrow. In fact, I'm going to deal with it. I really will tomorrow. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do to bless people today. And then finally, be amazed. Just go be amazed. Go be amazed. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that I mean, we don't know the rest of the story. Jesus stopped the story. He'd already made his point. But you could imagine if the story played out, what that act of blessing would have done to the relationship between this Jewish person and the Samaritan person. Like, they probably would have talked through some things. They probably would have become friends. They probably would have, you know, and you know what the Bible says is they'll know you're Christians by your love. Can you imagine the innkeeper who goes, wow, this Samaritan, praise God. Like, I find that as we're out blessing people in the community, there's something about that points people up to the Lord. And in fact, Mother Teresa said it this way, and I have found this to be so true. She said, small things done with great love will change the world. Now that's either, I don't know. Here's the thing. We've been doing church for 13 years now, and we've tried to follow that. And I'm telling you, I just feel like we're starting to see this flywheel spin. Like, it's just happening that, yeah, like things are starting to change. People are changing. Communities are changing. The culture, things are starting to change in people's lives. And as we do small things done with great love, it can change the world. Check out this video.
When we first moved into the building at 242, it was immediately available to everybody, right? Like the field and the play areas and everything. And I was looking for someone to get something going on the field, you know, having played sports in high school and college and different things. Like, I wanted to, you know, find a way to have that there as well, and had the idea that let's start a flag football league, and sent some emails out and said, hey, who wants to play some football? And got like a ton of people, you know, ended up making teams and having rules and having refs. The purpose was to get a group of guys together to do something they were passionate about. So we had an opportunity to also talk about God and learn about where He's taking us, how to be good fathers, how to be good brothers, how to be good husbands, really just kind of like getting together as guys and going, what are the things that fuel us, and where do we need to take next steps in that? Since the 5 years, not only has it grown and gotten more, you know, organized, but we've seen people just taking great leaps in their faith. A great example is Chris Kubinski. He started out the first season, was kind of just trying to go to church and figure stuff out. Got him connected with us and started going to small group, and you know, that led into conversations about baptism and We actually, the beginning of our second season, we got to kick off the season by baptizing him, kind of as the kickoff of the season, which was a really fun event. And his life has just taken off from there.
Through, love of sports or going out and doing some hobby, it was the tip of the iceberg how I got baptized. And, I know Dustin has said before, it has led to guys getting plugged into like small groups and, led to other baptisms and a lot of other people taking that, that next step. And I never thought in a million years I'd be teaching on that, leading or even baptizing people. It kind of just blew my mind.
Yeah, I wasn't looking to start a league necessarily. I was looking to just get a bunch of guys together and have a conversation and see where that led. And it's turned into something that has become not only a fun pastime and passion of ours, but it's also turned into something that's helped people grow spiritually. And they've brought their friends, and they're reaching out to their their brothers and their dads, and anyone can do it, right? It's like, didn't have to be me, could have been anyone, whether they have a passion or not. It's just starting something and looking that we're not limited by ourselves. We have unlimited potential to do so many awesome things because of God.
Dustin said that you're gonna go out and make disciples of nations, and I always thought it was like, okay, yeah, that's for like priests, pastors, and I never knew how wrong I was in that thinking.
You don't need permission to do it. If it's your passion, you go after it, and you start something, you see where God leads it, and that's what's really fun about this.